Stay home.
Stay home.
Stay home.
នៅផ្ទះ
Stay home.
Di banda. Duduk rumah.
Stay home.
อยู่บ้าน
Stay home.
Stay home
Stay safe ASEAN.
I have a dream of what I wanna be. I wanna be free. That's what my heart keeps telling me.
Give me your hand, we'll find a way. There are people out there that feel the same. And if we help each other, I just know we can succeed.
We are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl.
Come together and share our dream. We'd be among the stars, and we know that it's destiny. We are unity. We are unity.
I do believe, oh, I believe in destiny. It's up to me to make it into reality.
Give me a hand, we'll find a way. There are people out there that feel the same. If we help each other, I just know we can succeed.
We are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl.
Come together and share our dreams. We'll be among the stars, and we know that it's destiny, that we are unity.
No matter where you're from or who you are,
If we can find a common place to be, then we are friends. Oh.
we are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. Ooh. We are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl. Come together and share our dreams. We'll be among the stars, and we know that it's destiny, that we are unity. We are unity.
We are unity.
It's destiny, that we are unity. We are unity.
Stay home.
Stay home.
Stay home.
នៅផ្ទះ
Stay home.
Di banda. Duduk rumah.
Stay home.
อยู่บ้าน
Stay home.
Stay home
Stay safe ASEAN.
I have a dream of what I wanna be. I wanna be free. That's what my heart keeps telling me.
Give me your hand, we'll find a way. There are people out there that feel the same. And if we help each other, I just know we can succeed.
We are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl.
Come together stars, and we know that it's destiny. We are unity. We are unity.
I do believe, oh, I believe in destiny. It's up to me to make it into reality.
Give me a hand, we'll find a way. There are people out there that feel the same. If we help each other, I just know we can succeed.
We are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl.
Come together and share our dreams. We'll be among the stars, and we know that it's destiny that we are unity.
No matter where you're from or who you are,
If we can find a common place to be, then we are friends.
we are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. Ooh.
Hello world, mabuhay Philippines, patsada kitang tanan. Participants watching live in this series of webinar on flexible learning in Region 10. Greetings to our participants from the 107 higher education institutions in Region 10. And of course, I would like to greet our technical working group who have done tremendous legworks and concerted efforts for making this laudable initiative of the Commission to assist our faculty members in our efforts to transition ourselves and get ready for flexible learning. So I would like to greet, of course, Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology as our lead institution, and of course, together with University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines, Capital University, Xavier University, Bukidnon State University, Central Mindanao University, Misamis University, Governor Alfonso D. Tan College, Northwestern Mindanao State College of Science and Technology, and Taguluan Community College. We would like also to acknowledge our participants outside Region 10, mabuhay kabong tanan, who are also very eager and very fervent to learn together with us. So Today is our 8th day of our webinar series. So, kumusta ang tanan? Kayo ba'y buhay? Dapat lang, kumusta ang buhay? Buhay na buhay ba? Okay, so, for this, we are reminding our participants to register on the registration link, which is class earlier. And it is found on our Facebook page, live on the stream video. Okay, so certificates of attendance will be given to those who are officially registered. So please link or register yourselves to the link provided on the screen. So in our submission of our output, we have to submit our output on the learning management system, which is also flashed, the ReFLEX LMS na adira. So please submit it. Our submission was just last August 6, 2020. Participants can still submit your workshop output from day 1 to day 7. So pwede pagyapon mo habol for those who have not yet submitted. So better late than never. Why you have to submit? Because certificate of completion will be given to those who can upload their workshop output. The training team will be starting to check and monitor your workshop outputs submission today. So magsugod na. Correction, please. July 6, we started our submission of our outputs. Okay, so the trainers on this webinar will also respond to your queries and questions that you are going to post on our learning management system forum section. So today we will be having another very exciting topic. Are you ready with your cell phones and your laptop? Okay, so our topic for today is webinar on employing critical thinking strategies for teaching flexible learning, creating or editing a video lecture using your mobile phone. So our expectation during the webinar, participants are requested to have with them their mobile phones or laptop, or if they have with them their recorded 3-minute video lecture to be used during the workshop. You are also requested to download ahead of time the Video Shop or Video Editor software from the Google Play or App Store. The expected output of the participants, you are going to share or send your 2-minute lecture video with text, with photos, and etc. So today, I would like to introduce to you our expert in the field. He finished his Doctor of Philosophy in Second Language Studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in Honolulu, Hawaii, USA. He is currently teaching in the Department of Indo-Pacific Languages Literature at UHM. His research interests includes critical pedagogy, critical literacy, and multilingualism. He has published his scholarly works in the International Journal of Multilingualism, Critical Inquiry in Language Studies, Linguistics and Education, and Asian Journal of English Language Teaching, and many others. He holds his bachelor's degree in secondary education major in English and Master of Arts in English from Xavier University Ateneo de Cagayan. He received a Fulbright scholarship under the Fulbright Foreign Language Teaching Assistantship Program. He finished his doctoral studies with full funding from the University of Hawaii and other educational and financial support from the East-West Center. He is an affiliate faculty of the Capital University, where he serves as a senior editor of the Progreso Journal on Human Development. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Jason Barba.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Rose, for your very generous introduction. Is my audio coming okay? All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for this opportunity to share with you my research and also my engagement with critical thinking philosophies and theories, as well as my work in critical pedagogy and critical literacy here in the University of Hawaii at Manawa. So let me start my presentation by sharing my screen first with everyone. I hope you guys are able to see it. Are you guys able to see it? Let me know. Okay.
Yes,
So it's clear. Thank you so much. All right. So for those who are watching live on Facebook, I encourage you to enter full screen. So if you look at the lower right bottom of the screen, you can actually see there two-headed arrows, and you can click that and you should be able to enter the full screen so that you can see clearly my presentation. All right. So let me begin my presentation by talking about my positionality, because according to research, subjectivities affect the teaching and learning process. And it's also true for all of our students, wherever they are, their experiences, their identities, and their realities affect how they learn, and in fact, also their success in education. So I would like to begin by answering the question, who am I? Because I believe that this will also affect the way you will perceive the information and ideas that I will share with you this afternoon. I mean, this morning. In Hawaii, it's actually afternoon right now. So I was born and raised in the Philippines and remains very connected to the people and culture. In fact, I go home to the Philippines every summer. Unfortunately, this summer, I could not be there because of this pandemic. And I taught in the Philippines for 8 years, first at International School, Cagayan de Oro, and then for 5 years, I also taught at Capital University. Special shout out to my colleagues at Capital University. And my research areas, as Ma'am Rose mentioned earlier, is in critical pedagogy, critical literacy, and multilingualism. So I therefore identify myself as a critical applied linguist. And I have done research work in Philippine educational contexts and have also published them in various journals. So this is where I'm coming from. And I think that's very important to mention. All right, so let me begin my presentation with the preview of my presentation. So first, we will try to define and identify the characteristics of critical thinking. And at the same time, we will also try to answer the question, what does it mean to be a critical teacher? And third, we will cover the subtopic on how do we employ critical thinking in our everyday teaching practices. And fourth, I will try to encourage you, of course, to reimagine teaching in flexible learning environments. And next, we will also try to push the notion of critical thinking much further to make it more critical. And lastly, and more importantly, because Sir Rojan, the next presenter, will also cover this one, I would like to highlight the intersection between critical thinking and critical literacy, or critical digital literacy. All right, so I hope you guys are excited to learn. Is that a deal? Okay. All right, so before I officially start with my presentation, and during the presentation, I would like to encourage you guys to do the 3, 2, 1 reflection for reflective teachers. So while you're listening at the comforts of your home, hopefully try to do this, okay? 3 things that I learned from today's session, 2 things I am still curious about, and 1 way that I plan to use my new knowledge. So it's actually, this link at the bottom is found on the description of this Facebook Live. So please go to Padlet and use this link to access. And that's where you can write the 3 things that you learned, the 2 things that you're curious about, and 1 way that you plan to use your new knowledge from today's session. All right. So I hope that this will be a productive afternoon or session. And thank you for joining me again during this session. All right. So let us begin by talking about critical thinking in Philippine education. So I remember when I was in college, I read the Philippine Constitution because it's a requirement, right? And so when I was tapped to do this presentation, I actually immediately looked up the Philippine Constitution, the 1987 Philippine Constitution. And it's very encouraging because I found out that the Philippine Constitution actually explicitly states that education, the educational system, should encourage critical thinking and creative thinking among the youth. So therefore, as teachers, it is our ethical duties and responsibilities to encourage critical thinking among our students, among ourselves, among our colleagues, right? And also to engage in critical thinking in our everyday teaching practices. So it also behooves us to foster a learning environment that nurtures critical thinking. We should encourage that. We should nurture it, especially among our students, because they're the future of our country. All right. So therefore, the Philippine Constitution encourages teachers who are critical thinkers, but at the same time, hopefully, this will lead to the position of teachers as critical teachers. You know, critical thinkers and critical teachers, they're not necessarily similar. And I will try to unpack these things later on during my presentation. So stay on and listen to the discussion. And so let us now try to answer the question, what does it mean to be critical? All right, so Bourboils and Burke provides a definition or answer to this question. And according to them, to be critical is to be more discerning in recognizing faulty arguments, hasty generalizations, assertions lacking in evidence, truth claims based on unreliable authority, ambiguous or obscure concepts. So this definition then is encouraging us to really investigate when we're provided with information, especially now that there's a lot of fake news going around us. And also at the same time, we have to look into assertions that may lack evidence, right? So as teachers, in fact, we encourage our students to always look for reliable sources when they do the research. And so therefore, as teachers, we also have to do the same. All right. So I would like you guys to go now to menti.com and use this code 268931. So please type www.menti.com and use 268931. I would like to do this very quick and short survey among the participants. Okay, I will wait for your responses. Currently, I'm on this website. Okay, I'm looking at the website right now. Let's see if I'm able to see some answers. Oh, nobody is still there. So please go to menti.com. All right, so somebody says that they're able, yes, but only to a certain extent, according to them. Anybody else who's able to go into menti.com, please answer or write a response there. It's very interesting. Okay, so yes, so somebody said yes, they always practice critical thinking. That's very nice to know. Anybody else who's actually joining us on menti.com? All right, so it's interesting to find out that some people say or tell us that yes, they are critical teachers, but only to a certain extent. And some people have also said that no, but they are open to learn more about critical thinking. And interestingly, somebody also said that it's not really that important. Hold on, let me share my screen, my other screen with you right now. You can actually see my desktop. Okay, so I will share this desktop with you guys. Okay, so that you can see the statistics. Okay, so as you can see, 31 people said that yes, but only to a certain extent, and 19 people. I'm very happy to know that there's actually a good number of responses. At the same time, people have been exercising critical thinking. All right, so I'll go back to sharing my screen, my other screen, so that you guys will, we will continue with our presentation. Okay, so according to the same scholars, Paul and Alder, critical thinkers are skilled in 3 dimensions, and these are analytic, evaluative, and also creative thinking. Now, these 3 things might be familiar to a lot of you because these are actually also found in Bloom's taxonomy. So therefore, these are not new, right? But then in critical thinking, the focus is to be reflective and reasonable in order to decide on what to believe. So this is the difference. So this is the main focus of critical thinking, okay? Being reflective and reasonable. And hopefully we're able to make good decisions, especially in our classroom practices, in our curriculum, decisions that we're making in our institutions. All right, so let us now proceed to another definition of critical thinking, which I find very, very important and also highlights the fact that when we do critical thinking, it actually does not only benefit us, but it benefits others. And the word others here might refer to our students, not just our students, but actually our colleagues in general, our institutions, and also our country when everybody is able to think critically. All right, so that is very interesting to know, right? Because some of us actually just focus on critical thinking because we want to know facts from fiction, right? But actually, when we're doing critical thinking, we're making sure that the students learn the facts at the same time they're able to reason well and they are able to use the kind of information that we provide for them to become productive citizens of the country. All right, so that is the focus of this definition. Now, how do we employ critical thinking in our everyday lives? So when I say everyday lives, I mean when we discuss ideas and information and when we teach in flexible learning environments. So the situation right now is actually inviting us to be more flexible, right? So we raise the following questions when we are doing critical thinking in our everyday teaching practices. For instance, we say, who benefits from this? When we make decisions, either whether it's pedagogical or practical decisions in the classroom, we have to ask this question. And of course, hopefully, the one who benefits from the decisions that we make are our students, right? And how about the question, who is this harmful to? Perhaps there is actually a group of students that our decisions might harm, right? So we have to make sure that our decisions are not harming a particular group of students, especially those students who may not have access to technology when we're doing online teaching, or if not, when, for students who may not have access to the materials that we are providing them during this pandemic. Okay, and at the same time, we also ask the question, what decisions or who makes decisions about this? Okay, and at the same time, we also ask the question, who is most directly affected? These questions are very important to ask because, again, we are looking at the people who might be affected by the decisions that we make, at the same time, who wields power, right? When we actually employ critical thinking, we do that in our everyday teaching practices. So we also ask questions like what? When there is one perspective, perhaps provided in the classroom or in our course materials, we ask the question, what is another perspective? Perhaps there is another perspective out there that might actually inform us better. And it might actually be worth exploring, right? At the same time, what is the alternative? If we have decided to come up on a particular idea or decide on a particular idea, what might be the alternative? And perhaps the alternative is actually a better direction to take, right? And another would be, what is the most or least important? And the most important question I would ask when we are employing critical thinking is, what can we do to make a positive change, especially now that we are in this situation? Again, employing critical thinking in our teaching practices, it is supposed to be benefiting our students. So therefore, hopefully, when we make action or we make decisions and take action, this will lead to positive change. And the positive change is our students becoming successful in their learning. All right, so I'm not gonna go over each one of them. I just wanna underscore some of these questions. And I would like again to emphasize that by asking the right who and what questions, we seek to know who wields the power or authority behind something. We also seek to know who gets the benefit and who gets harmed, if any. And that's very important to take into consideration. And lastly, and more importantly, what can we do to make a positive change? So these are just initial questions because there will be more questions. For instance, we also ask the question, where? Okay, I will highlight some of these questions. The first one would be, where is there the most need for this? So if there's an idea or if there's a decision that has to be made, we can ask this question and perhaps we can make good decisions after that. And also, we can also raise the question, where in the world would this be a problem? So perhaps there are ideas or lessons, for instance, that we introduce to our students or discuss in class where it's applicable in our situation or in our context, but actually when we look at other people's experiences, it might actually be a problem, right? And another important question that we need to ask is, where can we get more information? It reminds me of my professor back when I was a student at Xavier University. He said there are two kinds of intelligences. One is knowing the answer, and second is knowing where to find the answer. And this is, again, really, really important, because knowing where to get the right information is vital in making sure that our students are learning the right kind of information from us. Okay, we also ask questions like, what are the areas for improvement, right? So if we have done something, for instance, if we are making an assessment, or perhaps we are thinking about changing the way we assess our students, perhaps we can explore areas for improvement. And of course, we are actually employing critical thinking by doing that. Another question is the when, or the other questions that we need to ask are the when. When is this acceptable or unacceptable? Yeah, so that's one question. Another is, when would this benefit society? And when would this cause a problem? So perhaps when our students, again, talking about our own context in the Philippines, right? We would always, I think, be encouraged to ask this question, because our students come from different backgrounds, they have different realities, and perhaps our decisions, again, would cause a problem for certain kinds of students. Like, for instance, we cannot impose that everybody has to do online learning. Some of our students may not have access to technology, or if they do, they have to share it with their siblings, right? Or if not, they might not have the silent or quiet places to study. So these are some of the things that we ask when we're doing critical thinking in our own context. Another important when question is, when is the best time to take action? So it talks about timing, right? And I think timing is, I think, can only be achieved, perfect timing can only be achieved when we establish teacher presence in our teaching, whether it's online, synchronous or asynchronous, right? So by asking the right where and when questions, we seek to know the context and the experiences of people. And the people here refers to the students and teachers within that context. Another is, we have to determine the right time for taking action, changing behaviors, which is also very important, and accepting suggestions. Okay, our curriculum is somehow fixed because a lot of us have been writing or preparing our course materials at this moment. I know that because I've seen the various talks given by Ms. Amphi, Dr. Amor, and even Arvin in previous days. But at the same time, I think we should leave a room for changing behaviors, or perhaps modifying some of the materials that we use, especially when the student experience it and it's different. Like, it's not the way we expected. The things that are happening are not the way we think the expectations, or they don't meet our expectations. So these are perfect. We have to determine the right time for taking action. Okay, am I so fast? I'm so sorry. It's a bit weird talking to a camera. Okay, so another way of employing critical thinking in our everyday lives is, again, asking the why and the how questions. So these are the questions. Why is this a problem? One is, why are people influenced by this? Right? So especially now with what's going on, this is a very important question to ask. And why should people know about this? Is it worth sharing, right? Another question is, why has it always been this way? Okay, perhaps there is actually a way to change the status quo, or the way things are being done at present. Okay, and why have we allowed this to happen? So when we ask this question in our context, perhaps it will actually prompt us to take some action. Okay, and let's now go to the how question. First is, how does this disrupt things? Okay, that's one question. Perhaps when a student approaches you and tell you that something is not working or is having trouble with the material, perhaps that's actually a venue for us to reflect on the course materials that we're using, right? And how do we know the truth? That's another way to employ critical thinking in our practice, because you know what, critical thinking encourages us to engage in multiple perspectives, but at the same time, when do we know actually that a certain knowledge or information is the truth and we should believe in it, right? And at the same time, we ask the question, how does this benefit us or others? So, and then the other question is, how does this harm us or others? So these are some of the questions I would say that are crucial to ask when we employ critical thinking in our everyday teaching practices. All right. And last question, it also says, how can we change this for our good? And again, the center of this decision is really our students, right? Okay, let us now proceed to the next slide. And it says, by asking the right why and how questions, we seek to assess why certain ideas and information might not be appropriate in certain contexts. That's true, especially because of the fact that our curriculum has been very Western oriented. Perhaps there are actually ideas that are from Western cultures that are not appropriate in our own context, in our school milieu, for instance. And we also seek to uncover possible ways through which flexible learning environments work for our students. And this is, again, very important because not everybody has access to technology, and perhaps other students might be at risk in terms of like exposing their themselves to the virus, right? So we have to always think about these things. Okay. Now, Akbari, who is coming from the field of critical applied linguistics, suggests the following ways through which we can transform our praxis. And one is by basing our teaching, right, on students' local culture. That's one. Again, the local culture here has to be unpacked as well, because sometimes the local culture may not actually represent the realities or the experiences of the students. Second, we have to regard learners L1 as resource to be utilized. So coming from a critical applied linguist, I would like to correct the notion that when we use Cebuano in the classroom, it will prohibit the students from learning. Actually, a lot of students, there are studies which can prove that when students use their L1 judiciously in the classroom, it actually facilitates, it makes learning faster, right? And the third, we have to include more of students' real life concerns. That's something that we need to engage with. Like, for instance, how many of us have actually included materials that talk about COVID-19, for instance? Again, these are real life concerns because it directly impacts our students, right? And also make our learners aware of issues faced by marginalized groups, whether you're teaching in education, in nursing, in engineering. I think there are various ways through which we can engage our students in awareness raising, right? Or in raising awareness about the issues faced by marginalized groups. Now, critical thinking may actually lead to critical literacy. So these ideas or schools are quite different, but some of their theoretical perspectives are actually overlapping. So for instance, critical literacy is focused on disrupting the commonplace or the status quo. However, it is also interested in interrogating multiple viewpoints, which is one of the foundations of critical thinking. And the third is focusing on social political issues. And that is why the humanities and the social sciences are very, very important, because these courses expose the students to disrupting the commonplace and ideas that may actually provide them with multiple perspectives, and at the same time, investigate the problems in society. And more importantly, in critical literacy, we are encouraged to take action. So hopefully from critical thinking, we're able to take action in order to promote social justice. And that is why I'm very optimistic that when we are thinking critically, we might actually be critical educators. We might become critical teachers. All right. So let us now proceed to the next slide. So in our context, right, in our teaching context, this means then the teachers should note that the curriculum exists within a social context. Now, the social contexts have different areas, but right now we have to remember that one of the major social contexts that we have to consider is the fact that there is a pandemic, right? This is something very serious and cannot be taken lightly. You know, we cannot even joke about it because a lot of people have died. And so therefore, knowing this background, right, what do we do? What do we do in terms of our teaching, in terms of like the way we interact with our students, the way that we monitor learning, right? So these are some of the ideas there that we need to think about. And also we need to reflect or think that the curriculum is actually a formal transmission of particular aspect of the culture's knowledge. And sometimes our curriculum can be, again, very Western oriented, and it's something that's something to do with our historical experience. So therefore, we need to ask ourselves, should we teach indigenous ways of knowing in our schools? And I think if you actually read the literature, a lot of scholars have done this in various communities, and perhaps we can also begin this in the Philippines. And do we allow students L1 in our classes? Again, coming from a critical applied linguist, we should not stigmatize students when they use their L1. That should be encouraged and allowed as long as it is done judiciously. And also, the focus on language, there's also this misconception that when you are teaching science or when you're teaching math, you don't have a role to play in making sure that the students are able to advance in their proficiency in English. So we have to think about that, okay? What are our roles as teachers in making sure that our students advance in their learning? All right, and then the next question is, do we include local culture and perspectives in our syllabus? And are examples in our materials purely coming from Western cultures? Again, this is something very important because I noticed like some of my friends have shared their like materials online on Facebook or on YouTube, but I've noticed that some of the images of people are, the representation is coming
Sir
from,
Jason, Sir Jason,
yes,
can we there's a little trouble with the live stream. I would like to re-enable the live stream, stop the current live stream, and then
all right.
okay. Can we go back siguro a few slides lang siguro kay medyo there was a
Which slide was that?
I think we go back to Akbari.
Oh, okay, Barry.
Okay. I will inform you, sir, when the live stream is back.
All right.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
about that, sir.
Yeah.